Here's a peek at what guests had to say after the show.
It's interesting that 5 that I count so far, very conservative newspapers who have not supported, endorsed a Democrat for a long time. The Arizona Republic since 1896, Cincinnati Enquirer 1916, Dallas Morning News 1940, the Houston Chronicle, the San Diego Union Tribune. Never support the Democrat. They are doing it. USA Today has never endorsed. They still don't, but they said, don't vote for this one.
Right.
And then magazines, Rolling Stone, The Advocate, Wired have come out for Hillary.
Rolling Stone, who would have ever thought that?
Okay. But just to show that the equal time, there are some lesser-known magazines that have come out for Donald Trump. Would you like to see? These are some lesser known. For example, for Donald Trump, Car and Liar. They say Mr. Trump owns lots of cars and he lies his ass off. What's not to like? Unpopular Science is for Donald Trump. They rave, you can make up practically anything about climate change and this shithead will retweet it.
Absolutely.
Trump is the obvious choice. Whine Aficionado.
I love that. That's my favorite.
They say you don't see this many bitches at the dog show.
Oh, my God.
American Sociopath. Their endorsement reads, while we can't sense or process normal human emotion, something about this Trump family just feels right. Good Housekeeper magazine. We hardly endorse Senor Trump because if we don't, he'll have us deported. Modern Mail Order Bride magazine. They say we've done business with this man and the check clears. This magazine translates as highlights for child laborers. And they say, we support the orange American whose name we sew on the neckties. And finally, Ferret Fancy magazine says, what's in his head doesn't make him one of us, but what's on his head most certainly does. All right. And finally, new rule, and this one's for Trump voters. If you think you hate the establishment now, wait until he wins, and the Trump surrogates, that basket of inexplicables he sends out every day to speak for him, become the establishment. Wait until Steve Cortez and Katrina Pearson and Chris Christie and Omarosa are trundling down the corridors of power, bumping into the walls. We're thinking of giving these people the reins of power. I wouldn't put them on the bus without asking the driver to make sure they don't miss their stop. So, in examining all of Donald Trump's surrogates, it's very helpful to remember that Trump actually once said this.
Always be around unsuccessful people because everybody will respect you. Do you understand that?
Well, it does explain Rudy Giuliani.
Yes. Absolutely.
Rudy Giuliani, who claims America never had a problem with terror attacks until Obama came along. Really? You can't even think of one? I'll give you a hint, Rudy. You make your living off of it. Donald Trump also once said, sometimes people will come into my office and they'll look great, sound great, dress beautifully. Everything is great. Then after you hire them, they turn out to be morons. Which explains his sons, Uday and Kuse. I mean, Trump Sr. in the White House is bad enough without these two American psychos putting plastic over the furniture so they can axe murder prostitutes while discussing Phil Collins. And how about the non-professionals? Have you seen Pastor Mark Burns?
Oh,
he's the pastor who gave the benediction at the Republican convention. And I'm not saying he's a total charlatan. It's possible that the free vial of holy oil available from his website can cure the sick. And if not, you can always use it as righteous lube. But he does seem to have lied about everything.
Yes.
Again, the bio that's on your website claims that you earned a Bachelor of Science degree. Did you make that claim?
I asked you just a moment ago as we were just opening up this, and first of all, I said that we were off the record.
I didn't agree to that.
Yeah, but I did.
Yeah,
Did you catch that? The interviewer says, I didn't agree this was off the record, and he says, yeah, but I did.
Right.
What do you think for him? Secretary of State, maybe? Head of NASA, perhaps? Another familiar face on CNN for the Trump campaign is Margot Gutierrez, a leader of Trump's Hispanic Advisory Council, and quite a spokesman for his peeps he is. He once said, my culture is very dominant culture, and it's causing problems. If you don't do something about it, you're going to have a taco truck on every corner. Okay, first of all, would that be such a bad thing? You mean, when I'm drunk, I don't have to wander around L.A. looking for a taco truck? That's the best argument for Hillary I've heard yet. But beyond that, Mr. Gutierrez is a real estate scam artist who's filed for bankruptcy 14 times. He's not just a Latino for Trump. He's a Latino Trump. Then there's, little Kayleigh McEnany, a kind of Ann Coulter without the empathy. And another young woman defending Trump, campaign spokesman, someone's crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I mean Katrina Pearson, who wears a necklace made out of bullets from the Chanel Don't Tread on Me collection. And once defended it by tweeting, maybe I'll wear a fetus next time. About... Good point. About Trump's proposed Muslim ban, she said...
You know what? So what? They're Muslim.
In 2012, she tweeted, perfect. Obama's dad, born in Africa. Mitt Romney's dad, born in Mexico. Any pure breeds left?
Sick.
Pure breeds? Where do you study your talking points? By the light from a burning cross? She also blames Obama for launching the war in Afghanistan, even though it was 4 years before he was even in the Senate, and has said about nuclear weapons, what good is having them if you're not going to use them? If this were the $100,000 pyramid, I'd say things a mental patient says. So what do you think? Ambassador to the UN for her? But I have to say that of all the surrogates, my favorite has to be Mr. Michael Cohen. Just take a look at him in action on CNN.
But you guys are down. And it makes
Says
sense
who?
that there would...
Says who?
Polls. Most of them. All of them?
Says who?
Polls. I just told you. I answered your question.
Okay. Which polls?
All of them.
I want a t-shirt.
Well played, sir. And he's a lawyer. In fact, he's the head lawyer at the Trump Organization. So we know he's awfully busy with lawsuits, like the one Trump filed against me in 2013. Remember that lawsuit? Okay. A lot of people remember it as a defamation suit. It wasn't. He was suing me to collect $5 million because I offered that to him if he could prove that his mother didn't, in fact, fuck an ape. So he went into court. This happened. He went into court and produced his birth certificate as if it was going to say orangutan on it. Yes, I made Donald Trump produce his birth certificate, and I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that. And finally, new rule, both candidates must sign a pledge that whoever loses the election in November, whether it's Hillary or whether it's Orange Hitler, I play it fair and balanced. The loser has to congratulate the winner and concede graciously. Why? Because civility is nearly dead in this country, and we need to return to some basic level of bipartisan decency and respect for our opponents. Otherwise, we're going to wind up being governed by those good-for-nothing assholes on the other side. You see, because I just... As long as one person is there with it. All right. Now, you may not think that something as simple as congratulating your opponent should rise to the level of a campaign issue, but if you want to know why our country is so tense and our government doesn't work, it's because society functions on some basic rules of conduct, and they're all going away. It's why filibustering has become not a rare principled protest, but the everyday automatic cock-blocking that defines government now. Ted Cruz filibustered Obamacare for nearly a day by reading Green Eggs and Ham, a book about how you might like something if you give it a chance. It's why Republicans who claim to worship the Constitution can now just ignore their duty in filling a Supreme Court vacancy. And speaking of the Supreme Court, which used to stay supremely out of partisan bickering, it's why Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yes, even sweet, scholarly, grandmotherly Ruth Bader Ginsburg, talked trash about Trump this year like she was in a rap battle. Oh, that man can bring out the worst in anyone. But I have to tell you, Donald Trump didn't create this swamp. He just rose from it. He and Hillary are the first two candidates in memory not to call and congratulate each other after they won their respective races. Forever, that is what people did. Even Al Gore called George W. Bush after he lost. And he didn't even lose! In the Senate, members used to refer to each other as my friend from the other side of the aisle. They didn't mean it literally, of course. No one actually thinks of Ted Cruz as a friend. But you say it anyway. It's like in a marriage. Occasionally, to keep things functional, you have to tell little lies like, you're more handsome bald, or I'm dying to hear about your day, or I love it that you only blow me on my birthday. It makes it special. But in politics, we've forgotten how to do that. Lie, not blow each other. We still know how to do that. Did it break down when we decided it was okay to say that the president was a Kenyan spy baby? Yeah. It didn't help. Neither did when someone shouted out, "You lie," at the State of the Union. And it's only gotten worse. A Republican senator this year called Obama a drug dealer. The governor of Maine left a voice message for one of his political opponents, calling him a socialist cocksucker. Even within the party, they do it. Alan Grayson lost a Democratic primary in Florida last month, refused to endorse the guy who beat him, and then called him a Republican. Now, come on. Call a guy a traitor or a cocksucker. Not Republican. I keep saying that this election is a referendum on decency. It's a chance to reject the gutter and punish people who want to live there. But right now, we are rewarding them. The guy who said, "You lie," the next day, donations poured into his coffers. Because now in America, when you act like an asshole, you're a hero. This is what Parliament looks like on a bad day in the Ukraine. And here's the Turkish Parliament. And the one in South Korea. And the one in Nepal. Yeah, we laugh at it, but that is where we're headed. Because the real infectious disease that's threatening our election isn't pneumonia, it's a total lack of class. This is supposed to be a democracy, not a bum fight. Let's leave the eye gouging to the pageant moms and the hair pulling to the Italians. Just a little decency for old time's sake, so the neighbors don't think we're trash. Because we haven't built that wall yet, and the Mexicans can hear everything. New rule, someone has to explain why it's socially acceptable to drink vodka in the morning as long as you pour tomato juice and Worcestershire sauce in it. But if I pour it over my Cheerios, I'm an alcoholic. Nero, someone has to tell this Chinese kid, get out of the algae. It's not good for you. Plus, hey, lunch break is over. Get back to making my iPhone. And finally, new rule, next time Apple wants to do something truly innovative and really think different, they should try not releasing a new phone. Because somebody has to teach Americans that we don't always have to have something newer, better every year. Or in the case of our upside-down economic system, every quarter. The only people who really need you to get a new phone every year are the shareholders. But just because they need to sell it so they can jerk off the stock price doesn't mean you have to stand in that nerd line and buy it. You're not early adapting. In fact, quite the opposite. You're taking too long to catch on. Now, before we go any further, I know what the people on the nerd line are thinking. Oh, Bill, how can you say the iPhone 7 is the same as the 6? The old phone had an A9 processor and a camera with an aperture of 2.2, and the new one has an A10 and a 1.8. Sorry, not sorry. And the old phone weighed 143 grams, the new one 138. I guess you could keep lugging around a 143-gram phone in your pocket if you want your ass to stick out like black china. You like the way I channel the nerd in my head? Okay. All right.
So
I get it. I get it. The new phone, a thing of wonder. They made the camera work better in low light, which, let's face it, is only going to encourage Anthony Weiner. But the question I'm asking is, do your friends really need clearer pictures of your lunch? You've already got in your hand a device that has all your email, all your music, the internet, GPS, takes pictures, gets you laid, gets you a car and driver when you're drunk, films cops when they shoot you. And oh yeah, it's a phone. It does everything but scratch your nuts for you, and I'm sure there's an app for that. It has Pokemon Go and Grindr, an app which enables guys to Pokemon and go. So why do I keep seeing headlines like, why Apple needs a new hit? The bad news on Apple's stock is only beginning. Is a new iPhone enough to snap Apple's sales slump? Sales slump? Since 2007, that phone has made over $621 billion. To put that into perspective, take the amount of money Donald Trump has given to charity and add $621 billion. Americans keep asking, why doesn't our economy work for people like me? Because it's not designed to. Because somewhere along the way, we bought into this insane idea that everything always has to get bigger, especially sales. Having a really good year and then just repeating it, not good enough. In corporate America, the stock market is the tail that wags the dog. Growth, holy growth is the only thing that ever matters. Better than last quarter. Beat expectations. Eat more hamburgers. For Apple, revolutionizing the world wasn't enough. That was last quarter. And it's not just them, it's every company. Do you ever wonder, for example, why shaving needs to keep reinventing itself? Men used to shave with a sharp rock, and Keanu Reeves still does. Then there was the straight razor. Then the single blade, then the double blade razor, 3 blades, and now the quattro. Let me tell you something. If you've got something on your face that doesn't come off after 3 blades, that's not a whisker, that's a tumor. Or look at that Wells Fargo scandal. It's that very pressure for growth, constant, endless growth, even when you're filthy rich, that led them into a crime where they cheated and deceived their customers. Now, fortunately, Elizabeth Warren's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found out and put a stop to it Or as I see it, Cowboy 0, Indians 1.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.
All right, and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. My guests are Arsenio Hall and Bobcat Goldthwait, and isn't it great to be back in 1997?
Yes. Where's that
Oh, look at this old home week for the comics.
It is.
Oh, remember when we were the
flashback.
young comedians?
Yeah.
Oh, what happened?
Sad, really.
Oh.
Now I look like your Dorian Gray painting.
Oh, God.
Come on. You guys were talking about, back in the day, my line on Rodney King was, if you ever see me getting beaten by the police, put the video camera down and help me.
That's a great joke.
Now it'd be the phone, but,
Right.
to bring it in the new millennium.
But you have kids, right?
Yes, yes.
And you have a kid? Somebody I know who has a kid said, now that I have a kid, if a guy was driving 100 miles an hour through my neighborhood, I would want the police to wail on him.
Wow.
Well, I mean, kids change you.
Yeah.
Well, if I didn't like my kids.
I'm just saying, that's what somebody said.
That's what somebody said.
I just thought that was interesting from the people with child perspective.
I remember the first time I saw the video, I was like, that brother must have done something. Because they were whipping his ass so vehemently, It was like, what, I couldn't believe that he hadn't done anything.
Well, he did drive through a neighborhood.
He was going fast.
Yes, he was going fast. I agree. I agree that does not justify beating a man on the ground.
Just give me the ticket.
You had some involvement with that, did you not?
Yeah, it was very interesting from my perspective, learning at the foot of a black man about black people.
How?
Yeah, especially about the history of black people in our country, which is not a sterling history. And to have this happen, and to have George Herbert Walker Bush, then the president, of course, turn to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Powell, and say, we need to do something. We need to federalize the Guard out in California. We need to do something. We need to restore order and so forth. And Powell said, wait a minute. Let me, Mr. President, give you some facts. And they had a really good discussion, and Bush stood down.
Oh, that was the old Republican Party.
Yeah, that was the old Republican
They listened
Party.
to facts.
Hey, Bill.
That is a quaint notion.
Hey, Bill, could I ask you, I'm a huge fan of Colin Powell. What did you learn from him about black people and their history that you didn't know already?
I learned that I had such a void in my historical knowledge of this country, from its colonial period to the World War II period, that I was ignorant. And he put me in the books, and he put me with the people. I interviewed over 750 World War II veterans. And I kept asking them over and over again, why? Why? Why would you come back to a country that treats you like it does? Why did you fight for this country? And I got the same answer every time. It's my country, too. And one day, it might live up to its beliefs.
Okay. Here's a question for you from M. Sturgos. What advice would you give a potential candidate who confides he has had an extramarital affair?
Don't admit to it. No, I'm kidding.
Shut up. That's the advice?
Always go to the Eddie Murphy Shaggy thing. Wasn't me.
Yeah. Right. Remember Shaggy?
Yes, wasn't me.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, just whatever you do, don't lie about it. If you get caught, you've got to fess up. That's the first thing, first and foremost. Because they'll always find out.
If you were John Edwards, would you have fessed up?
At what point? I mean, he had so many opportunities.
Yeah.
But yeah, he should have, once he got caught, you come up. Someone's always going to talk. I promise you, there's always someone who's going to talk.
You know what we don't have very much conversation in this country about? What a great family man we have in the Oval Office right now.
Yes.
I mean, with Barack Obama, there's no honky tonk. There's no side stories. There's
you never have to talk if you get rid of the honky.
There's no garbage. There's no crap. I mean, he's
he has to be the Jackie Robinson of politics, as I always say, because if he makes one wrong move, this experiment with the black president, as we were talking about, is over.
If there had been a Shaquita someplace on the south side of Chicago.
But do you think? But do you really think that the people that President Obama motivated back in 2008, I mean, the youth vote came out. I think a lot of young people didn't see color when they voted for President Obama. I think there were people that did, but the group that he motivated, and this is why the Democrats got behind him instead of Hillary, seriously, because he could bring in a whole new generation of young people and get them into the political process where they thought demographically Hillary really couldn't do that.
And that's the problem with the Republican Party is that they're not embracing change, and they're not getting younger people in that are much more aware and much more
outside of the wealthy, you don't want anybody. You don't want women. You don't want the young people. You don't want students.
But if I get back to the question, I mean, conversely, I mean, Sarah Palin famously at the convention had a pregnant daughter.
Yeah.
You know, or I guess was she pregnant?
She lost.
She had the baby.
Newt Gingrich.
Oh no, the girl was with child.
Yes.
Okay. We cannot
By the way,
really
in the
picture.
ghetto, in the barbershop, it's like, you know that's Sarah's baby, bro. You know, but
yes.
I just got to keep you in touch with the barbershop.
But conversely, can we really, even in America, picture if Barack Obama had the similar situation, if his daughter was pregnant? I mean, it just is inconceivable that America would accept that as they did with Sarah Palin. So that's so much for your post-racial America, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
President Obama said the kids are off limits.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
but we're also just used to seeing hillbillies pregnant. It's not that weird.
That's right.
It's really. That's so true. You don't even see it, you know.
That's right. That's right.
There's an Uncle Dad somewhere.
Right, exactly.
One of the reasons I wasn't going to vote for Jesse, because I didn't want a first lady and a first baby's mama in the White House,
right.
You know, and you know what he was going through at that time.
Right, exactly.
So Obama, I'm incredibly proud of his past, his present, and I'm looking forward to his future.
Right. I am too. Okay, Colonel Wilkinson, are you concerned with neoconservatives' resurgence in the Republican Party and the calls to attack Iran?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see some of the same people making some of the same statements. They're even reading off the same sheet of music, John Bolton and others. This is another war in Western Asia for the United States would be catastrophic. And the president, very bravely, courageously, defying people like John McCain and Lindsey Graham and other stalwarts of my party, has started down a negotiating track that has every reason to succeed if people just let him do it.
Isn't it funny that, in a way, the Obama method is sort of the opposite of the Powell Doctrine, which was overwhelming force?
Decisive force.
Okay, but Obama seems to use the least amount, like to get Libya, to get Gaddafi, $1 billion, as opposed to $1 trillion to get Saddam Hussein. The Somali pirates, Newt Gingrich said, let's invade. No, a couple of snipers took him out, drones, you know, the Bin Laden raid. He seems to do what Mitt Romney loves in business, be super efficient.
Yeah. I won't dispute that, but I will say that that's a dangerous road to walk down if you're not closing the door. And what I mean by that is Libya is still a huge question. Afghanistan is still a huge question. Iraq is still a huge question. Right now, Syria is blowing up, and Maliki, on the one hand, is funding one side of Syria. Muqtada al-Sadr is funding another side of Syria. So this kind of delicate Democrat gradual response walking into Vietnam is not necessarily the best. I stick with Powell.
Gosh, back in the 90s, fellas, blowing up meant get popular, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we're going to go enjoy a reminiscence backstage.
Yeah.
Oh, this is over?
This is over. Yeah, we're way over. We're just having too good of a time.
This isn't even on TV.
Yeah, this isn't even on TV. This is the internet.
My public is expired.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.
What do you feel is the biggest threat to our national security today? And how would you grade the Obama administration's anti-terrorism performance?
I think they've done a great job on anti-terrorism.
So A?
Oh, yeah, A+.
Oh, A+.
But that doesn't mean there's no more threat. That doesn't mean there's no more threat. You know, people say he shouldn't take credit for what he's done. But I'll tell you, if something blows up, they're going to blame him. So he should take credit for what he's done because he will also be blamed if it doesn't work.
Okay. Jay Madera says, why don't we go back to Reagan times when the wealthy paid a lot more in taxes? Did they?
Well, okay, it depends whether Reagan had a top marginal tax rate of 28%. We're at 35.
And how many times did Reagan
up to 45? He signed too many tax increases. And the good news is we've learned from '82, which was the significant one, when the Democrats offered him $3 of spending cuts for every dollar of tax increase. The tax increase is real. We're still paying it. And none of the spending cuts actually happened. They doubled spending rather than $2 of spending cuts for every dollar of tax increase.
And, Bill, the real problem is that the very, very wealthiest people in America now have these devices where they don't pay any taxes. Remember the McCourts who owned the Dodgers didn't pay any taxes, state or federal, for 7 years, I believe. If you are very, very wealthy now, Wall Street has come up with products that will allow you to live tax-free. If you're a billionaire.
So you should check into that.
I am not.
First, you need $1 billion.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, Eva, this is for you. The African-American community tends to be more conservative on the gay issue. What do you think the Latino response will be to Obama coming out for gay marriage? Yeah, why do the minorities hate on the gays?
No, we don't hate it. First of all, to generalize about the Latino view is really irresponsible because we're a faction group. But it's...
Because the Bible.
Well, because we're Catholic. A lot of us are Catholic. A huge majority are Catholic. But what's interesting is the study just came out that said Latinos don't take that issue to the polls. That's like 400th on their list.
Actually, most people don't take that issue to the polls.
Right. It's not a
people tend to
topic.
vote on kitchen table issues, fiscal issues, national security issues,
not
social issues last. And this was even proved in the Bush administration,
in the Bush re-election campaign. Latinos are not a conservative, or not for it. And also, if you look at the demographic of Latinos, we're the youngest ethnicity in the United States, and we're only getting younger. And being young is indicative of being more accepting and tolerant of alternate lifestyles.
But if it wasn't for religion, it wouldn't be an issue at all.
Right.
I mean, it really does come from religion. It really, I mean, it's you know.
In North Carolina, it was through the black churches. I haven't seen an analysis of other states, but that's also where you'd want to do your voter turnout. So there's a little bit of a conflict there that Obama's going to run into.
What does the panel think of J.P. Morgan losing $2 billion doing the same risky investing that caused the 2008 crash?
I love that question. I'll tell you why.
Okay, go ahead.
When George W. Bush's administration bailed out Wall Street and started the bailout of Detroit, when they bailed out Wall Street, nothing changed. Nobody lost money on their bets. The executives still get paid the same way. We still don't have Glass-Steagall. Nothing has changed except we've given them a lot of our tax dollars. When the Obama administration bailed out the auto industry, everybody took a haircut. The shareholders got wiped out. The CEO and the janitor both took haircuts.
The UAW
and the
took a major haircut.
Yes, they did.
But disproportionately, the secured bondholders didn't do
those were
nearly as
health care
well
claims.
as the UAW.
No, they didn't. But everybody took a haircut, and the executives who had deferred compensation lost half that money. Everybody took a loss. That's the difference about how the two administrations treated it.
I think the real thing here with J.P. Morgan is, you know, the Republicans in the House said we don't need more regulation. You know, Dodd-Frank wasn't necessary. This is proof Dodd-Frank was necessary. They're still doing all the stuff they were doing in 2008.
Dodd-Frank is the law of the land, and this happened. How did Dodd-Frank fix it?
Because it hasn't been implemented.
Because it hasn't been implemented.
That's right.
It hasn't been implemented.
Right.
We've been regulating.
Dodd-Frank does not address fiscal credit default swaps adequately. It doesn't address...
Why doesn't it? Why doesn't it?
Yes.
Because the Republicans in the House wouldn't allow them to do that in the bill.
Right.
Dodd-Frank passed when the Democrats had a majority in the House. No Republicans had any ability to have any influence.
But the bankers who produce 40% of the profits in this country now have enormous influence in Washington. We have been regulating banking since Hammurabi. Okay? And we knew how to regulate banking up until we decided, starting in 1980, with a series of acts to stop regulating bankers. You got to regulate banking. It is the crucial central industry you have to regulate. There are a lot of things we can get rid of regulation, not finance. Because you get unlimited damage.
Except evidently Fannie and Freddie.
Right.
Who were forced by and pushed into buying when they weren't buying toxic mortgages, and they were criticized by Wall Street. Wall Street said they're not buying these things. They're going to lose market share. So they started buying them. And you look at the Financial Crisis Industry Commission report, inquiry report, and it shows they acted much better than anybody on Wall Street.
Is there any amount of income inequality that is bad? Any amount?
Well, the question is why you have it. I mean, if you have income inequality because the government's got programs that keep poor people poor. I mean, the Davis-Bacon Act was originally passed to keep African Americans out of government jobs.
Davis-Bacon Act.
Well,
you know Hammurabi?
I know more about Hammurabi than I know about Davis.
Davis-Bacon is in law now. Hammurabi's passed away. But that's a law that was deliberately set up for reasons of protecting organized labor against black workers, and it makes...
What year was this law passed?
Late 1920s.
Yeah.
Oh, the 20s.
It's still law of the land.
It's still law of the land. It requires
the
a minimum
Democrats
wage.
keep voting for it.
And Grover's right. There were some racist aspects to it, but it was also sure that
they said it on the floor of the Senate and the House when they passed it.
But its function has also been to take blue-collar workers like my brother, who's a ditch digger, and see to it that they got a living wage, which most Americans don't have now. And by the way, the problem with inequality, people should be paid according to the merits of how well they work and their success, but what we're doing in this country is taking massive amounts of tax dollars and quietly funneling them up to the richest people in America. That's the real problem with inequality. It's a government policy creating people who didn't earn the money.
Yeah, any government program that takes money from someone and hands it to someone else is suspect. Sure.
How is the ditch digging industry going?
Pretty bad. And by the time you're my brother's age, he's 60, you're busted up and you can't work anymore. Nobody will hire you. They want young people.
Right, but Americans aren't taking those jobs. We'll need the Mexicans.
Go ahead.
But I went and talked to one of the guys responsible for defending the Davis-Bacon Act, and he was saying, please help us raise taxes to do more of this stuff. And I said, instead of raising taxes, how about getting rid of your Davis-Bacon, which keeps the cost up 25 to 33%. His response was, do you want all our highways built by Hispanics? So the good news is that this disgusting racist law is still a disgusting racist law. They just have a different target. That's your government at work.
But of all the problems we have in America...
It's a major problem, and we could fix it. Why? I would think you'd be out there going, yes, let's get rid of something like that.
Maybe I am.
Okay, good.
Since I've never heard
we got rid of farm subsidies and Davis-Bacon so far today.
Davis-Bacon, believe me, it's going to be on my breakfast table tomorrow morning. Bacon, no. Davis-Bacon, that's what I want to think about. But of all the things, you know, is this really the top priority? Is this? You seem so worked up about Davis-Bacon.
Well, it's a major injustice, and it's wrong. And if you wonder why your roads aren't very well built,
middle class.
I'm sorry, higher wages lead to worse roads? That's a difficult stretch.
But no, what Davis-Bacon does is it raises the cost of all building of roads and all building of bridges and so on.
And less workers are more efficient because they're paid more.
But in the big picture, Grover, like I just read this week that corporate profits are finally back to their pre-recession levels, 15% of GDP, and yet they have given no money to raising wages, nothing to reinvesting. It looks like maybe they, along with the Republican Congress, want to keep a sluggish economy so that black people...
The median wage in this country has fallen...
Isn't that a bigger issue to you than Davis-Bacon?
I mean, look,
I am all over Davis-Bacon from now on.
Free market advocates pointed out that if you threaten the economy with taxes and regulations, as has been done, people will not invest in the economy. People are investing outside the United States more. We ought to have a better atmosphere here for investment and job creation, and then both the companies that have money here and foreigners should be investing in our country. You're talking about immigrants won't come to this country. They're not sending their money either.
I am all over that. All right, we're out of time. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you coming. Thank you, panel.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.